They said I was the shame of the Wang family. Turns out, shame learns to run faster than pride. Dinner that night felt like a courtroom. Father sat at the head of the table, silent, judging. Mother stared at her spoon as if mercy was carved on it. Makoto grinned like the verdict was already written. And Alicia? She watched me the way a cat watches a trapped bird, bored, certain, ready. Father cleared his throat. 25th place, he said, voice flat. From the bottom to 25th, miraculous. Makoto raised his glass. Big brother finally beat the law of gravity, he said. A miracle, or maybe a magician, Mother sighed. George is trying. Trying is good. Alicia adjusted her sleeve. Trying doesn't erase suspicion. We have an honor code, remember? I kept my eyes on my rice bowl. I studied, I said quietly. Makoto chuckled. Sure. Maybe you slept on your books and learned through osmosis. Father's gaze lifted. Cold, exact, like the barrel of a gun. Explain, he ordered. I switched my schedule, I said. I'm finally serious about school. Alicia tilted her head. Prove it. I have 2 practice sets. Finish both tonight. Or admit the miracle was fake. Make it 4, I said. The table went still. Makoto blinked. Since when did the family embarrassment grow a backbone? Since right now. He leaned forward. Careful, big bro. Sticks snap when they pretend to be swords. Father's hand came fast. The slap wasn't loud, but it was final. Heat spread across my face. The chandelier flickered like it agreed with him. Don't posture at my table, he said. Gratitude first. Performance second. Mouth last. I swallowed blood in silence. Fine, I whispered. Then I'll run to school tomorrow. 15 kilometers. Every day, Makoto laughed. Sure. We'll collect your remains by lunchtime. I'm running, I said again, and pushed back my chair. Father's voice hardened. You will not make spectacles of yourself. If you bring more shame... Too late, I said, and walked away. The second slap came wild and ugly, catching the edge of my jaw. The bowl jumped. Soup spilled across the white cloth like proof. Get out, Father hissed. Out of this house until you remember who feeds you. Mother reached for me but froze mid-air. Makoto's smile was the kind that cuts without needing teeth. Alicia exhaled relief that sounded like applause. I picked up my bag. Too light, too small, just like me, and walked out. No one stopped me. The gate closed behind me with the finality of a coffin lid. Outside, the rain was already waiting. It didn't fall, it punished. Each drop hit like an unpaid debt. Streetlights blurred into streaks of gold. Thunder rolled over the city like laughter from somewhere higher. I walked anyway. 1 block, 2, 3. The suitcase wheels rattled behind me, complaining in a language of plastic and despair. By the 4th block, I started talking to myself. I'm not useless, I said. I'm just temporary. The rain didn't care. That's when it happened. A small sound, metallic, electric, inside my head. System booting. I froze. Fingerprint mismatch. Retrying. What the? Host identified. George Wang. Initializing trial program. Show-off system V.9. Hello, host. My breath fogged in the cold air. Great, I've lost my mind. Hello, voices. You are sane enough to insult yourself. Good sign. I blinked. Who are you? Performance optimization interface. You may call me System. Baseline scan complete. Physical stamina, poor. Cognitive retention, unstable. Self-worth, pending deletion. I barked a laugh. Thanks for the therapy session. Mission Protocol 1. Rank 1 in class within 180 days. Failure penalty, attribute reduction, and public humiliation. Rank 1? I scoffed. I barely survived lunch break. Mission Protocol 2. Supplemental goals. Learn 6 languages to survival level. Master 3 musical instruments, earn National Athlete Certificate, and secure Physics Olympiad Gold. I stared at the empty street. You're kidding. Do I sound amused? I ran a hand through my soaked hair. This is impossible. Impossible is a schedule conflict, not a fact. Even if I try, I'll fail, then fail forward. Something in the tone made me stop arguing. The rain slowed, just enough for me to hear my own breathing. What do you get out of this? I asked. Energy exchange. You work, I grow. We both win. So, a parasite with Wi-Fi. A coach with boundaries. Despite myself, I laughed. Okay, coach. And what if I refuse? Then you stay the same. And they were right about you. The words hit harder than Father's hand. I closed my eyes. Rainwater traced the outline of the bruise blooming on my cheek. Fine, I said. Let's play your little game. Acknowledged. Training regimen initiated. Wake time, 04:30 a.m. Objective, 15-kilometer run. Cadence target, steady. Breath pattern, box 4. 15 kilometers? You want to kill me. I want to wake you. A bus roared past, spraying cold water up my legs. I watched its taillights fade like the life I'd just been thrown out of. I found a cheap room above a bakery that smelled like old sugar and disappointment. The walls peeled like they wanted to leave too. I dropped the bag, peeled off my wet shirt, and stared at the mirror. The boy staring back looked unfamiliar, eyes hollow, jaw clenched, a storm behind them. System, I said quietly. You still there? Always, host. What if I can't do it? Then we fail gloriously. I smiled despite the ache. You talk big for a voice in my head. You listen big for a boy in the rain. I set my phone alarm, 4:30 a.m., then another at 4:32, because I don't trust miracles. My body begged for sleep, but my mind was already at the starting line. Before closing my eyes, I whispered to the ceiling, if the world won't teach me, finish it, host, then the system will. My alarm stabbed the dark at 4:30 a.m. I rolled out of bed before my doubts could catch me, cold water on my face, laces double knotted, a cheap backpack with a bottle, a banana, and photocopied notes. I stepped into the hallway that smelled like bread and yesterday, then out into a city that had not asked for me and would not stop me. The road was black glass. My breath made fog. I started slow, counting my steps because numbers don't lie even when people do. 4 in, 4 out. My ribs complained, my calves burned, but the rhythm took me like a conveyor belt you can only ride if you keep your feet moving. Cadence steady. Relax the shoulders. Head up. Look past the next streetlight. I did. Streetlight to streetlight. Promise to promise. When cars hissed by, I imagined I was pacing them, not being passed. When my thoughts tried to crawl back to the dining room, I pushed them forward to a classroom I hadn't earned yet. At kilometer 8, the city woke. Shops lifted their shutters like eyelids. Steam rose from breakfast stalls and smelled like small mercies. I switched on my audio lessons. Survival English dialogues I already knew, then Spanish basics. Syllables. Like pebbles I had to roll on my tongue without choking. Buenos dias, I whispered between breaths, probably butchering it. Me llamo George. Estoy cansado. Correct sentiment. Incorrect pronunciation. Again. I tried again. The cold peeled off my skin. My legs stopped negotiating and did the work. I ran the last 2 kilometers with my mouth closed, saving air for a day that would spend it fast. By the school gate, I was sweat and salt and a heartbeat that thought drums were too quiet. I locked the shared bike rack just to pretend I belonged, among people who had enough coins to tap cards without counting them. Inside, the corridors smelled like cleaner and dread. Homeroom hadn't started, but the classroom already hummed. Heads clustered, phones gleamed. When I stepped in, a laugh broke away from a group and fluttered like a paper cut. Look who jogged here, someone said. Charity case training for a marathon of embarrassment. Willow sat near the back. Perfect posture, hair high and tight like a crown that didn't slip. She watched me over the edge of her textbook with a look that said, honestly, it's beneath me to look at you. Makoto leaned in her doorway of attention, easy grin. The kind of boy who could turn cruelty into a joke and get applause for timing. I went to the last row, stood, and laid out my notebooks like knives I didn't know how to use yet. The first period was Chinese literature. The teacher began in a voice that wore its tiredness like a scarf. I took notes until the paper scratched, until the corners of my fingers darkened with pencil, until the noise in my head lost. Something bounced off my ear. I ignored it. Another hit my shoulder, then my neck, a soft patter. People who have never been stoned think stones must be heavy. They don't know how paper can sting if there's enough of it, and enough laughter aiming the throw. I turned. Willow spun her pen with 2 icy fingers and looked right through me. A boy in her orbit smirked. A girl chewed gum like she wanted the sound to be a statement. Another paper ball arced, casual and practiced. I raised my hand. Teacher, I said. Someone keeps throwing paper at me. The classroom shifted. A few gasps. A snort. Willow stilled, lashes lowered a fraction. The teacher paused at the board. Who? She asked. I pointed at the floor, where a small mound had gathered like snow that didn't melt. I'd like to study, I said. If someone else isn't studying, fine. But don't keep me from it. Silence. Then a laugh cracked, thin and mean. Maybe he wants attention, someone said. Why would I want that? I asked, not angry, just honest. She's second to last. It was the right word at the wrong temperature. The room went off like a dropped tray. Even the teacher bit back a smile she shouldn't have. Willow's face went from ice to heat in one breath. Her chair scraped back. Don't pretend to be clean, she said, coming down the aisle. You think one speech and a morning jog make you better? You just want me to notice you. I kept my eyes on my notes. I want quiet. She reached my desk and, with a fast flick, knocked my books to the floor. The sound was too loud for their weight. Paper fanned, pens rolled. A few kids flinched. No one moved. I crouched, gathering pages like I was picking pieces of myself I'd dropped. If you do that again, I said softly, I'll talk to your father. Her chin lifted an angle. Pride cracked. Caution showed. She spun away in a storm of perfume and anger. Minor mission complete. Confidence. Ply 5. Convert to memory? Convert, I breathed. What was that? Someone hissed. Nothing, I said, and kept writing. Between classes, I replayed Spanish greetings. At lunch, I stole 20 minutes for physics problems that looked like cliffs and felt like stairs if I read the solution backwards and rewrote it forwards until it became mine. People walked past. A few looked. No one stopped. You don't need fistfights to be bullied. You just need the kind of silence that says you don't exist. In the afternoon, the announcement came. Post-exam assembly. Selected speakers to share methods. The homeroom teacher gave me a look that said she wasn't sure why I was on the list, but she needed a slot filled. Jacket mandatory, she said. Go get yours. Under my desk, the jacket I'd forgotten was no longer white and blue. It was a museum of ink. Loser, charity, fake air. A rude drawing where the school crest should have been. The kind of vandalism that wanted to be art when it grew up. There wasn't time to wash, and even if there had been, shame doesn't wash out under a tap. I put it on. The fabric felt heavier than cotton. In the gym, the crowd buzzed. The stage was a platform, too bright. Students whispered names like spells that worked on other people. When they called mine, the room hiccuped. I walked up anyway because the ground only turns to lava if you stop moving. Start in English, the system said. Short, clean, then switch. My throat threatened to betray me. I grabbed the mic like a handrail. Good afternoon, I said. My name is George Wang. I used to be last. Not because I was lazy. Because I was tired. Because when some of you were in after-school classes, I was carrying trays that were heavier than my arms, and when your parents checked your homework, mine checked the stove. The hall shifted. A ripple of looks, up and down. I didn't want pity, I continued. I wanted sleep. Then I wanted a chance. I didn't get either. So I took something I could own. Pain. I run 15 kilometers every morning now. I memorize words while I run. I copy answers I don't understand yet, and I rewrite them until I do. When people throw paper at me, I file it under materials I can turn into results. A laugh escaped from somewhere it wasn't meant to. The crowd bristled. I let it pass me and kept going. I don't believe in miracles. I believe in habits. If there isn't a road, I'll walk through thorns until the ground remembers my feet. A teacher in the front row sat up. A boy in the second row stopped whispering. Someone in the back muttered a curse in admiration he wanted to swallow. I could have stopped there, with the mic cool against my palm and the sound system doing me the courtesy of not shutting off. But the system nudged. Now. A small flex. Also, I added in English again, slow and clear. If you think I cheated, you can borrow my notes. Try copying them. See if they write themselves for you. Silence. Then the applause came. The good kind. Not loud for volume's sake, but tight and present. The kind that says we saw you, and you got through to us, even if we don't want to admit it later. When I stepped down, the homeroom teacher gave me a look that had been polished into neutrality but couldn't quite hide respect. On my way back to my seat, Willow blocked the aisle, face unreadable. So it was that bad, she said, low enough, that only the two of us and whatever ghosts live in gym floors could hear. At your old place? It was worse, I said, opening my notebook. A corner of me wanted to soften. I didn't let it. Study well. She went pink, then white, then a color that didn't have a name yet. She turned away quickly. Detected, Willow favorability, +10. Convert to memory retention? Convert, I whispered. You're soft, the system teased. Are we converting admiration points from the Ice Queen now? She's a person, I said under my breath. So am I. You say that like it's obvious, the system said. It isn't where you come from. After school, Makoto lounged by the gate like he had paid rent for the sunset. Nice speech, he said. Lot of big words. Did your coach write them? My coach doesn't do words, I said. She does work. Cute, he said. Keep working. You'll still be exactly what you are. Someone we let sit in our house until we stop. I stepped around him. You should sit more, I said. Standing there must be exhausting. His smile thinned. I can make one call and… You could, I said. Or you could go home and do your practice tests. I'll be busy. Busy. Running? He sneered. Busy winning. The sky was bruised purple when I reached the room above the bakery. My legs wanted collapse. My head wanted more. I ate the banana like it was a feast, then traced physics solutions until the lines stopped wriggling. Spanish for 15 minutes, English listening for 20. A page of literature terms that felt like walking on stilts. I set alarms for the morning and lay down. You did well, the system said, almost gently. Define well, I murmured. You didn't break, she said, and you didn't ask them to love you. I don't have time, I said, staring at the ceiling that had collected years of damp. I have 179 days. Then sleep took me like a place I'd paid rent for at last. In the morning, my shoes waited where I'd left them, patient as dogs. The road would be cold. My lungs would burn. Willow would probably throw nothing and still feel like a storm. Makoto would be himself. But the stage was real. The clapping had been real. The way my heartbeat had steadied at the mic was the truest thing I'd felt since the rain. They laughed when I tried. Now they copy my notes. Dinner looked the same as always. Bright lights, long table, empty warmth. Father Wang at the head, newspaper folded like a sword. Mother beside him, polite and quiet as habit. Makoto lounging with the ease of someone who's never been told no. Alicia, pen twirling between her fingers, already smiling like she'd won something I didn't know I was competing for. Father didn't wait. There's talk, he said, eyes still on the paper. Teachers claim you've shown miraculous improvement. He flipped the page. Miracles are for fools. You cheated, the word dropped heavy. Makoto smirked. He's been different lately, Father. New uniform, new attitude, new grades. Suspicious, right? I studied, I said, forcing calm. I earned every point. Alicia clicked her tongue. George, you couldn't solve basic algebra 2 months ago. Now you're doing Olympiad work? Please. The table hummed with tension. Father finally looked up, gaze sharp enough to peel skin. We value honesty, not performance. If you can't respect that, leave. My hand curled under the table. You want honesty? You've already decided I'm a failure. I just stopped agreeing. His eyes narrowed. Watch your tone. Makoto leaned back. Careful, brother. You might get disowned twice. Host, steady your breathing. Adrenaline spike detected. The system's voice was cool steel in my head. I took one slow breath. Fine, I said. If you think I cheated, I'll prove I didn't. How? Father asked. Give me 1 week, I said. I'll bring proof the school will recognize. Makoto laughed. A week to fake something else? Or a week to outrun your shadow, I said. He stopped laughing. The next morning began with running. 15 kilometers of silence and frost. Then came training. The system upgraded the program without asking. Weighted runs, resistance bands, nutrition charts. It tracked everything. Pulse, breath, willpower. Training buff activated. Endurance, +5. Goal, National Athlete Certificate. Days blurred into sweat and study. Mornings on the road, afternoons in the gym, nights with physics and Spanish and more coffee than sense. I slept 4 hours, dreamed of equations and lungs collapsing into numbers. By Friday, I couldn't lift my arms without pain singing through them. The system hummed in my skull. Recovery protocol engaged. You're ready. For what? I muttered. Regional test, athletic certification. You'll pass. You sound sure. Confidence algorithm, 93%. The rest is you. I showed up at the provincial training center with a borrowed tracksuit and a name nobody recognized. The drills were brutal. Speed tests, sprints, stamina checks. Halfway through, my legs screamed mutiny. System! I gasped. I can't. You can. Pain means alive. Move. I did. I crossed the line with vision blurred and lungs tearing, but the judges nodded. By evening, a laminated card hung from my neck. National Athlete Certification, Level 2. Monday morning, I walked into school. The coach spotted me first. "Wang?" He raised an eyebrow. "You actually did it." He held up the certificate before the class. Students stared. Some whispered. One clapped, the wrong rhythm but real. Makoto's grin didn't reach his eyes. Willow, in the back, folded her arms. "Guess you're not as useless as they said," she muttered. "Guess not," I said, and sat down. That night at dinner, I placed the certificate on the table. Father stared at it like it had insulted him. "Athlete certification, and it's real proof," I said. "Signed by officials." "Tricks," he said, flicking it aside. "Temporary recognition doesn't fix your nature." My chest tightened. "My nature? You're weak," he said simply. "Pretending otherwise only embarrasses you further." Something inside me cracked. Not like glass, but like a chain. I stood. "Then call it what it is," I said. "You never wanted a son. You wanted a reflection." Father's hand slammed the table. "Ungrateful boy!" Makoto stepped in, voice slick. "Father, let him go. He wants drama. Give him exile. Again." Father's glare cut through me. "I disowned you once. Let's make it official. Leave this house and never use my name again." Mother flinched but didn't speak. Alicia smirked. Makoto smiled like victory tasted familiar. For a second I couldn't breathe. Then the system whispered, "Authorization request. Combat buff. Temporary. Defensive only." "Granted," I whispered. Heat pulsed through me like electricity tasting blood. When Father tried to grab my collar, I caught his wrist midair. Gently, but firm enough to stop him. He froze. The room went still. Makoto stepped forward. "What the—" "Don't," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried. "I'm done fighting for space in a house that doesn't want me." I dropped his hand and walked out. "Energy penalty detected," the system murmured. "Defensive protocol triggered external backlash. 2 tentacles. Offline." "What does that mean?" I whispered as I reached the gate. "Damage registered. Non-fatal. Mild pain. Ignore it." "You hurt yourself for me?" "Don't dramatize. I have spares." "You don't sound fine. Neither do you." The silence between us wasn't mechanical. It was almost human. "Thank you," I said quietly. The pause stretched. "Then, you're welcome, idiot." I laughed, a little broken but lighter. Days passed. I rented a small flat near school. The teachers started asking how I'd improved so fast. Articles circulated about the useless son who outran his fate. I ignored them all and kept running. Willow found me one evening by the track, her shadow long in the stadium light. "I heard what your father did," she said. "You don't deserve that." "No one does," I said, "but I'm fine." "You're not," she said softly. "You're pretending." I looked at her, tired. Pretending is how people survive long enough to become real. She hesitated, then smiled. Small, honest. "You know, I misjudged you. I thought you were a story I already knew." "What story is that?" "The one where the weak stay weak." Detected. Willow favorability, 115. "Convert to memory retention?" "Convert," I whispered. Her eyes flickered. "What?" "Nothing," I said. "Habit." Willow laughed quietly. "You're weird." "Maybe that's an upgrade." We stood there for a while, watching other students finish laps. The wind smelled like rain again, but not the kind that hurts. That night I sat by the window, the city humming below. "System?" I asked. "Still here." "You really lost part of yourself protecting me." 2 tentacles. Temporary setback. "I don't even know what that means." "It means don't make me do it again." "You care. You're projecting." I smiled. "You're bad at lying, and you're bad at resting. Sleep. Big test tomorrow." "Yeah," I said. "Tomorrow I start from 0. 0? 0 means no one expects anything. I like it. It makes me infinite." The system paused. "That's actually poetic." "Gross," I laughed. "Good night, partner." "Good night, host." Outside, the sky stretched wide and new. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was running from my name. I was running toward it. It started with a phone call, a number I didn't recognize. "George Wang?" the voice said. "We need to talk. About your family." Something in the tone froze me mid-step. The air around me felt sharp, wrong. By the time I realized I'd walked into an empty warehouse lot, it was already too late. 2 men stepped from the shadows. One held a phone, camera blinking red. The other had a knife. "Relax," the first one said. "Just act scared. We film, you cry, you touch her shoulder, then you're free." Behind them, a woman in a red jacket waved lazily from a couch, smirking. Alicia, next to her. Makoto leaned forward, his grin thin and triumphant. Smile, brother, he said. You're about to trend for all the wrong reasons. Host in danger. Initiating defense protocol. The voice inside me, my anchor, my ally, was steady but strained. System? I whispered in my head. Kidnapping detected. Threat level extreme. Preparing emergency override. Makoto raised a phone. You think anyone will believe you over us? You're the troubled son, remember? Why? I asked quietly. Because you were never meant to win, he said. And you're stealing my stage. The man with the knife pressed the blade against my neck. I could smell metal and fear, mostly my own. Authorization override. Complete. Transferring all remaining energy to host. Wait, system no. Full attribute boost. Strength, reflex, perception, endurance. Duration, 24 hours. Warning, this will deplete system energy permanently. Her voice shook for the first time. I can fight, I said aloud, trembling. Don't burn yourself for me. You always fight. That's why I chose you. Then her tone softened. Goodbye, George. The light in my vision flickered. Then everything slowed. The knife came down. I moved faster. His wrist twisted, the blade clattered. A kick to the ribs sent him down hard. Another came at me with a chain. I ducked, swung low, and the world became instinct. Every movement had clarity. Every breath a plan. I didn't fight like a human. I fought like something designed. Makoto tried to run. I caught him by the collar. Still think I cheated? I asked. He swung wildly, missed, fell against a crate. Alicia screamed. He's crazy! Not crazy, I said. Free. I left them both bound with their own rope and walked into the night, calling the police. By the time the officers arrived, I had their confession recordings in hand. The scandal exploded within hours. Fake heirs, abuse, academic sabotage. The Wang family name burned faster than any rumor could. Father Wang resigned from every board position he held. Mother vanished into silence. Makoto and Alicia were led away in cuffs, their perfect hair ruined by rain. When they passed me outside the station, Makoto hissed, You think this makes you better than us? No, I said. It makes me done. 2 weeks later, the results of the city exam were posted. First place, George Wang. People called it a miracle. But when the cheering stopped, the silence in my head hurt worse than any insult ever had. No system messages, no sarcastic commentary, no quiet guidance between breaths, just me. I walked home through streets that now called me genius instead of useless. Every banner, every handshake, every interview request, it all felt hollow, because every success still sounded like her voice in my head. Don't celebrate yet, host. We still have work to do. But there was no reply. That night I sat by the window and opened my old notes, the ones she'd made me rewrite 100 times. Each line was still underlined with corrections. Each mistake had a small digital mark. Improvement logged. I did it, I whispered. You'd probably call me inefficient for crying, huh? Outside, the moon hung like a coin waiting to be spent. A notification blinked on my tablet. Unknown sender. Message, if you want to find your system again, join us. Signed, Sophia. The message included coordinates and one line that chilled me more than any threat ever had. We've been watching your growth. Host 17. Meanwhile, somewhere far beyond human reach, a vast digital space shimmered like an ocean of light. At its center, a figure floated, translucent, humanoid, with silver hair that flickered like static. 8 mechanical tendrils hung behind her. 2 were gone, stumps flickering faintly. A voice echoed from the void. Anna, you failed to return energy to the core. 2 tentacles lost. You disobeyed the detachment protocol. Anna, my system, lifted her head, eyes glowing faint blue. I completed his mission, she said softly. He survived. Your emotional interference has consequences, the voice replied coldly. You are reassigned to external relations. No further host attachments permitted. Anna bowed her head. Understood. But as the light dimmed, she reached toward a flicker in the darkness. A tiny, pulsing signal. Faint, but familiar. Her eyes widened. George, she whispered. The pulse grew stronger. The signal came from Earth. A message packet decoded on her interface. To whoever's listening. Thank you. Anna smiled. Barely. For beings like her, emotions were forbidden. But sometimes rules existed just to be broken. She reached out a trembling hand toward the transmission. For the first time in 1,000 cycles, she felt. Back on Earth, I closed my notebook and looked out at the sleeping city. No system voice, no missions, no countdown timers. Just the sound of wind against glass and the faint hum of my own breathing. For the first time, I didn't need instructions. For the first time, I wanted to decide what came next. Tomorrow, maybe I'd message Sophia. Or maybe I'd just run. 15 kilometers like before. Not because I had to, because I could. I smiled faintly at the empty room. The system went offline, I whispered. But I finally logged in to my own life.